Good evening, Senator Jackson and Representative Treat and members of the Commission. My name is BonniePreston, and I'm on the National Council of the Alliance for Democracy, an organization that works to replace corporate rule with a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. We have campaigned against these so-called free trade agreements since our founding in 1996. All of these trade agreements have been intent on expanding the wealth and power of multinational corporations, even going so far as to allow foreign corporations to use international trade courts to challenge our domestic laws on health and the environment. It is clear to us from the TPP provisions which have been leaked that the TPP would be harmful to Maine's people and our local farmers. The Alliance for Democracy supports the movement in Maine to protect local farmers by passing local food and community self-governance ordinances. We have grave concerns about the TPP regarding food, going beyond food safety. Previous trade agreements have consolidated the power of the largest agribusinesses, helping to destroy small-scale agriculture in both developing countries and the U.S. They have refocused farms on food grown for export, increasing food insecurity here and abroad. Agribusiness, with its gigantic equipment, longer and longer supply chains, and miles of monoculture, are contributing to global climate change and weakening local economies and traditional community cultures. The TPP will accelerate this path to the destruction of communities and the environment. Most Americans see the food safety issue in trade as the problem of unsafe food coming into the U.S., and we've heard a lot about that tonight. But before the advent of trade liberalization promoted by these trade agreements, plants located in foreign countries were required to have inspections by USDA inspectors. Now the corporate food model is infecting our domestic regulations, creating a food system that is less safe. The USDA, for example, now allows chicken processors to speed up their lines and to use company-paid inspectors as they do in China. Corporate challenges to our regulations threaten to further weaken domestic regulations. Whether foreign or domestic, food safety is undermined by trade rules. The TPP would extend these rules to 40% of the global economy. In the TPP negotiations, the U.S. position is to force other countries to accept unsafe agricultural practices allowed in the U.S. For example, most countries ban the use of ractopamine, an asthma drug, to accelerate growth in meat production. This is allowed in the United States. Many countries have banned GMOs. The U.S. wants these bans lifted and to outlaw the efforts to label GMOs. Nanoparticles used in U.S. food and food packaging can pass through cell walls, including the placenta and the blood-brain barrier. Research in China has indicated they may cause mutagenic changes at the molecular level. Do you really care that they make the cream fillings in donuts whiter and brighter? Most countries refuse to import meat from the U.S. because of the overuse of antibiotics in industrial meat production. The medical profession has been asking the FDA to ban this practice for about 20 years now, to no avail. Feeding grain to cattle instead of grass, as is done in CAFOs, changes the composition of the fat in the meat and milk from healthy omega-3s to unhealthy omega-6s. Poultry is washed with bleach to kill bacteria. Studies have still found that most packaged meats in the supermarket have dangerous bacteria on them. Many countries want to use procurement policies to allow regulation of their food supply for reasons of public health and safety, and to support local economies. The U.S. believes this distorts markets and should not be allowed. However, monopoly power also distorts markets, and the U.S. has no problem with that. Just 4 companies control almost 85% of the meat industry in the United States, for example. Agroecology has become recognized as having the greatest potential to feed the growing world population. Small, diversified farms using closed systems and natural inputs are much more productive than huge monocultures using petrochemicals and fertilizers. They also can adapt to specific environments in ways that industrial agriculture cannot, and they are more resilient in the face of climate change. Maine is situated to lead the country in agroecology, as was pointed out in the recent Maine Food Summit meeting. Instead, the TPP is designed to strengthen agribusiness, as all of our trade agreements are designed to do. This is an extraordinarily short-sighted policy and would make Maine's food strategy based on agroecology, TPP, illegal. The new trade provision in the TPP requiring countries to create a bureaucracy to ensure compliance with the TPP rules increases this threat significantly. Cheap imported foods are no substitute for healthful and delicious locally grown food. Local foods strengthen local economies, food security, and local food traditions. The growing food sovereignty movement here in Maine and around the world is a direct challenge to the power of Monsanto, Cargill, Tyson, and all of the other huge multinational corporations that want to control us all. Henry Kissinger famously said, if you control oil, you control countries. If you control food, you control the people. And Francis Moore Lappé equally famously said, hunger is not caused by lack of food, but by lack of democracy. These quotes embody two different visions of our future. Will we be controlled by the money-hungry corporations, or will we control our own food supply and thus our own destiny? We urge the Maine Citizens Trade Policy Commission to take a position in opposition to the TPP and in favor of Maine's farmers, local economy, and healthy families. Our future is in your hands. That concludes my remarks.